In today's video, we're going to be looking at 15 words and phrases that you can use in your Task 2 essays to boost your band score. And also stick around until the end of this lesson because I'm going to be checking your understanding of these words and phrases in a quick 15 question quiz. Right, let's begin. What do you think is the most common word for starting an IELTS essay? It's nowadays. Nowadays is a very useful word for the introduction. For example, you could start your essay like this. Nowadays, many young people are choosing to study abroad. Or, nowadays, an increasing number of physical stores are being replaced by e-commerce websites. Nowadays is a great word because it allows you to quickly introduce the topic of the essay and then move on to writing your position. Now you might be thinking, what does your position mean? Well, your position in IELTS means your opinion. And it's very important to write this in the introduction and conclusion. Now, instead of constantly saying, in my opinion, you can say, I would argue that. For example, you could say, some people believe that the development of online shopping has many negative consequences. However, I would argue that online shopping brings tremendous convenience to the consumer. Or, in conclusion, I would argue that the increase in online shopping is a positive development. Next, we have in spite of. In spite of is similar to although. We use it to contrast two ideas. For example, we can say, in spite of higher tuition fees, many young people still choose to study abroad. Which means, although studying abroad is more expensive, young people still choose to study in a foreign university. Now, let's quickly look at the form. We can have in spite of plus a noun, so in spite of plus higher tuition fees, which is a noun phrase. We can also say in spite of being more expensive. In this case, we have in spite of plus a gerund, which is an ing verb. So in spite of being more expensive. And that's not all. We can also use in spite of the fact. So in spite of the fact that it is more expensive, many young people choose to study abroad. So we have in spite of, and then the fact that, and then a clause, which is a subject and a verb. Stick around until the end of this video because we'll be doing a quiz to test your understanding of these words. Number 4 is for instance. Now, did you know one of the best ways to increase your writing score is to give examples in your essays? However, instead of simply saying, for example, for example, for example, we can use for instance instead. It means the same thing. So, there are many reasons to study abroad. For instance, you can learn a foreign language, meet people from all over the world, and experience a new education system. Number 5 is due to. Now, due to is similar to because. We use it for introducing a reason. For example, due to COVID restrictions, many people were forced to work from home. The great thing about due to is that when we use it, we are also likely to get a higher score for grammatical range and accuracy. And that's because it turns a simple sentence into a complex one. So due to is a very good phrase to use in your IELTS essays. Number 6 is by contrast. By contrast is like however, and we often use it to link two sentences together. Have a look at this. In England, young people will pay around £9,000 per year to go to university. By contrast, Scottish students are fully subsidised by the government. This is a great phrase for developing your ideas in IELTS essays, which will get you those high scores like Band 7, Band 8 and Band 9. Number 7 is as a result of, which is similar to therefore. We usually put it at the beginning or middle of the sentence. For example, we can say, as a result of the increased tuition fees, fewer young people are able to afford university education. Or, fewer young people are able to afford university education as a result of the increased tuition fees. Now this one is my personal favourite, ensure. It's one of those academic sounding words that can help you to impress the IELTS examiner. So ensure basically means to make sure. For example, young people should ensure that their language abilities are good enough before going abroad to study. Or parents like to ensure that their children are properly fed and safe. Number 9 is enable. This is a fancy way of saying to be able. For example, we can say getting a scholarship can enable young people from poorer backgrounds to study abroad. Again, this is the kind of word that can help boost your IELTS writing score. Number 10 is hence. We often use hence in the final sentence of a paragraph to show how our idea relates to the IELTS question we are being asked. It's similar to therefore. Here's an example sentence. Tuition fees have more than trebled in the last few years. Hence, many young people are considering going straight to work after finishing high school. Number 11 is another favourite. The word is lack. Lack means not enough of something. So we can say many young people lack the funds to be able to afford expensive undergraduate courses. So this sentence means that young people don't have enough money. They lack the money to go to university. Number 12 is invaluable. It means very valuable. We can say the education that students gain at university is invaluable, which means that the education is very, very valuable. Invaluable is a great way to describe things that we think are extremely useful. For example, your help has been invaluable. Your advice has been invaluable. Your guidance has been invaluable. Invaluable is a great word for both the writing and speaking test. Number 13 is similar to invaluable. The word is paramount. Now, if you say that something is paramount, it means that it is very important. For example, you can say education is paramount to a successful career, or it is of paramount importance that the government ensure that all citizens have access to education. You wouldn't use this word in your speaking, it's a bit too formal. However, it's very useful for the IELTS writing test. Number 14 is significant. Now we can use significant to mean large. So we can say a significant proportion of the population cannot afford university fees without government support. Or we could say there has been a significant effort to reduce carbon emissions. So we can use significant instead of saying large or big in these kinds of sentences. Number 15 is a word I know you guys all know. It's if. And well, if means if. So why do I think that this is such a useful word for IELTS essays? Well, because if is used to introduce a conditional sentence. A sentence like, if the government provides scholarships and financial aid, more young people will be able to attend university. Now, conditional sentences are considered as complex sentences, which means if you have an accurate conditional sentence in your essay, you're showing that you can use Band 7 plus grammar. So if you get a chance, try putting a conditional sentence in your essay and show the examiner that you deserve at least a Band 7 for your IELTS essay. If you want some help with how to write conditionals, check out a video I made a long time ago, which outlines all of the conditionals, including mixed conditionals that we have in English. Right, it's now time to test your knowledge of these words in a quick quiz. Right, time to put your knowledge to the test. So number 1, something many young people are choosing to study abroad. Now you have 4 options. Is it A, nowadays, B, nowadays with hyphens, C, nowadays, or D, nowadays? So the answer is C, nowadays. Okay, number 2. In conclusion, something that the increase in online shopping is a positive development. So we've got A, B, C, and D. What would you choose? The answer is D. I would argue that. So again, I would argue that is an alternative to saying in my opinion. Number 3. In spite of something higher tuition fees, I almost said it, many young people still choose to study abroad. Is it A, of, B, of the fact, C, of being, or D, for? So in spite of. So the answer is A. Number 4. In spite of more expensive, many young people still choose to study abroad. Is it B, it is, C, being, or D, the fact is? So in spite of being more expensive. So remember, this is a ing form, a gerund, which is when we have a verb after a preposition like of, and then instead of having the infinitive, we have it in an ing form, so that it acts more like a noun. Don't worry if that sounds complicated, just remember in spite of and then being, or any verb but in an ing form. Okay, number 5. There are many reasons to study abroad, something, experiencing a new education system. For instance, by instance, as instance, or for instancing. The answer is, of course, A, for instance, which is the same as saying for example. Okay, number 6. Something COVID restrictions, many people were forced to work from home. Now we've got A, B, C, or D. And the answer is, of course, B, due to. So due to COVID restrictions, many people were forced to work from home. Okay, number 7. So we've got 2 sentences here and we want to connect them. So we have, in England, young people will pay around £9,000 per year to go to university, something. Scottish students are fully subsidised by the government. Now, hopefully you can remember, because this is the example from the video, we have for contrast, as contrast, to contrast, or by contrast. And the answer is by contrast. It's D. Number 8. Something the increased tuition fees, fewer young people are able to afford university education. So, by contrast, in spite of, as a result of, or nowadays. What would you choose? The answer is C, it's as a result of. So as a result of the increased tuition fees, fewer young people are able to afford university education. So remember, as a result of is similar to because. So it's because the tuition fees have increased, fewer people are able to afford university education. Number 9, young people should their language abilities are good enough before going abroad to study. A, surely, B, be surely, C, be ensure, or D, ensure. The answer is D, ensure. Okay, number 10. Getting a scholarship can something young people from poorer backgrounds to study abroad. A, enable, B, able, C, be able, or D, to enable. So the answer is A, can enable. Now if you said D, then you should revise modal verbs, because we can never put a modal verb and then an infinitive with to. So we can't say can to enable. But this is quite a common mistake that I see regularly from IELTS students. So remember, can or any other modal verb, which is can, could, will, would, may, might, shall, should, and then you have an infinitive afterwards without to. So can enable, or will swim, should pay, not should to pay, can to swim, for example. Okay, number 11. Many young people, something the funds to be able to afford expensive undergraduate courses. So A, no have, B, not having, C, lacking, or D, lack. And the answer is D, lack. So lack means to not have enough of something. So in this case, students don't have enough money to go to study their undergraduate courses. Number 12. The education that students gain at university is invaluable, invaluable, invalued, or invalued. And the answer is B, invaluable, which means very, very valuable. Number 13. Education is something to a successful career. 4 options: paramount, paraglide, persimmon, or paracetamol. And the answer is, of course, A, paramount, which means very, very important. Okay, number 14. A something proportion of the population cannot afford university fees without government support. Significant with 2 Fs, significant with 1 F and an A, significant with 2 Fs and an E, or significant with 1 F and an E. So which is the correct spelling of significant? If you said B, then you are correct. So significant with 1 F and 1 A. Okay, 15, the final one. If the government provides scholarships and financial aid, more young people, something be able to attend university. Is it will to? Is it will? Is it would to? Or is it would? Now think, which conditional is this? Is this the first, the second, the third conditional? In this case, it's the first conditional, so the answer must be will. So many young people will be able to attend university. Right, I hope these are words that can help you in your preparation for your IELTS, and words that ideally you can put into your Task 2 essays in your writing test. Okay, remember, if you need some extra help with your writing, then check out my online course at englishprotips.com, and you'll find a vocabulary course, a listening course, a reading course, a speaking course, and a very popular writing course, which is really helping a lot of students to get high scores in their IELTS test. Okay, best of luck with all of your studies, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye then.